When I talk to someone who I think is struggling, I ask the question, and I use something called empathy. Who's heard of it? We've all heard of empathy. What's empathy? I'll go. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes, putting yourself, taking the conversation and not making it about you, but I'm making it about them. Because right in that moment, you're helping them. So you're probably going to go somewhere where they're going to feel comfortable, right? I mean, when you have personal conversations, you probably are going to want to do it like where they're comfortable, not in the middle of the hallway, right before the bell rings, right after the bell rings, right in the middle of the lunchroom. You guys already know that, right? You're already having these conversations in someplace safe. So you think, I'm going to reach out. And I'm going to put myself in their shoes and just imagine how hard it must be for them. Because right now, whatever they're going through is very real to them. Some people told me, well, you should just move on from dance. Just find something else to do. What's the big deal, right? Or what was it? There's so many people to date. Why get so upset about him? What they didn't realize is that I wasn't struggling with finding something else to do. I wasn't struggling in relationships. Take a guess at what I was struggling with. Raise your hand. Yes. Self-esteem. And the girl right behind you. Yeah. So guess what that means? That means the problem isn't the problem. There's the problem, right? There's something else going on in the person's life. So you ask openly and honestly, are you okay? That's the first step of the action plan, is ask. And you're asking, and when you do that, you remember that chasm I talked about? Remember that big space between me and the rest of the world? You just built a bridge. You just built a bridge for them to walk across to find help. You have to build that bridge. You don't know if they're having thoughts of hurting themselves. But do you want to take that chance? I wouldn't. So we're going to ask. The second thing we're going to do is who thinks listening? We're going to go over listening really quick. Who thinks they're a good listener? I think you're a pretty good listener. Have you ever been listening to someone though? Hands down. Have you ever been listening to someone though, and you're like, and you hear a word they say? Sometimes my husband does that, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'll get right on that. That is not what you're going to do in this instant. There's a couple things that you need to do so that they know you're listening. If you have your phone in your hand, put it down into a bag or in a pocket. Why do I want it that far from you? All of the tension's on them. Because guess what? If it's not on the table, you're not going to be tempted to check it. I mean, if somebody who always has their phone on them, right? Always has their phone out. If they actually take the phone and stick it in a bag, that's a kind of a huge deal. You're showing them, do you know we take 80% communication through our eyes? You have to show them you're going to listen. And then just let them talk. That is part of the action plan. Now, when whoever had a really bad day, you get home and you just want to vent, right? You don't want advice in the moment. You're not trying to get fixed. You don't need a solution. What do you need to do? You just need to talk, just vent, right? When I have a really bad day and I come home, do I want my husband to give me advice and fix it? No. I just want someone to give me space to vent. And guess what happens? I feel so much better. Sometimes you just need someone to listen to you. Rant and rave, just give you that space. That's the third step in the action plan. You're going to ask, actually it's the second because I can't count. Listen, and then you're going to encourage, but I want to hear from you. What do you say when you're trying to encourage someone? What are those statements? You got this? All right. What was the second one? Say it louder. You're amazing. I heard you're amazing. What else? Believe in yourself. Okay, I'm going to tell you one. Gosh, if you had my handwriting, you wouldn't pass. You know what I say to people? Shh. I remind them of how strong they are. I remind them of how much they've accomplished. You have all accomplished something huge. You want to know what it is? Middle school. Middle school is pretty hardcore. And if it's not the schoolwork, it's the drama. Drama. My daughter's in 6th grade now. And guess what it's all about? Drama. Boys. Relationships. I have to remind her, Annabelle, you have come so far. You got through 3rd when you didn't think you could. You got through 4th when you didn't think you could. You got through 5th when you didn't think you could. Every single time you didn't think you could, you did. And she's like, oh, actually I did. You know, she doesn't do this though. That's my cheat. And so sometimes we just have to be reminded, dude, you were scared the other night and then you went on that court and you threw that ball and you hit the 3-pointer and you didn't even think you could ever do it. You just did. So sometimes we just need to be reminded. I'll say encouraging things. How about this? Shh. Use the word we instead of you. Not just you're going to get through this. We are going to get through this. What's the difference between you are going to get through this and we are going to get through this? Raise your hand. Right. Other hand. How about you? Bridge. Very good. She's going to get a Smartie. You got to bring the Smarties over here. Oh my gosh. I brought candy. So you've asked, you've listened, yes, you've encouraged. With what? Empathy. Because is this conversation about you? No. It's about what they need in the moment. So we are going to get through this and reminding them you're not alone. And it's okay in that conversation to say, I've been through something similar. We can get through this together. It is the best way to connect with another human being, right? Dude, you guys I said, dude, right now, you are learning skills that not a lot of people know, to be honest with you. They don't know how to take those steps, and you are learning this today. It's a very big deal. And with these ideas that you're gonna know, navigating high school and college will be a lot easier. If I didn't have this education, God, could I have used it? I probably wouldn't have struggled so long. Remember that voice I talked about? That voice that told me if I just stayed thin, that I could stay happy. I believed that lie, and I did everything I could to lose weight. And I remember the first time I needed a resource was when I was 19 years old. I was abusing diet pills. I was abusing caffeine. I was abusing nicotine. I was abusing exercise. I was an addict for exercise. I was trying to drown my pain. And one day, I collapsed in my house and I had a huge panic attack where it started to get dark, my heart started to race, I was afraid something horrible was happening to me, I was shaking and I was sweating. My mind was freaking out. All I kept saying over and over and over again, I can't do this, I can't do this, I just want to go, I just want to go. And I said it over and over again, but I was aware enough to pick up the phone and call my brother. He was my person that I could reach out to. So I called my brother and said, I'm not okay, I need to get home right now. He comes home, he sits down next to me, and we have a conversation. I don't remember much of that conversation. He reminded me that I wasn't really making any sense at the time. I was just kind of like spewing, I guess you'd say. And a couple of words in there scared him the most. It was suicide. That's a pretty scary word. And he did the right thing. He called Mom. Mom called a hospital, a psych hospital, and I went in for the very first time. And I remember when my mom dropped me off, and I was going in, filled out a bunch of papers, and I'm scared out of my mind. Literally scared. And I talked about being brave. I walked in there, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna do this. My mom drops me off and says, oh, by the way, make sure she eats. She tends to be anorexic. Who? Me? I don't have any problems. What's she talking about? Thanks, Mom. She just gave them something else to be looking out for. I had no clue. I was the last one to know that I had an eating disorder. They diagnosed me with obsessive compulsive disorder. They let me out of the hospital. Yeah, they let me out after a week. And I started something called recovery. I was given a plan. I was given a person to depend on. It wasn't my parents, and they weren't my friends. Somebody who didn't know me, but knew how to talk to me. Do you want to guess what kind of person that was? It was a psychologist, and actually she was a psychotherapist. She understood the mind. So she knew that the problems weren't the problems. That I had a whole bunch of stuff stored. Do you know when you bury an emotion, you bury it alive? It doesn't go away. It starts to come back in all these really weird ways, like anxiety about something. You're like, why am I anxious about that? Because something is still there. I still had that. But unfortunately, they still didn't know about the bipolar, so it took me till the age of 25. I was at work. I had been abusing diet pills and all the other things that were hurting me. And I thought I had it all together, and I thought I could keep going, but my body collapsed. They rushed me to the emergency room, tested my heart, hooked me up to a bunch of tubes and sticky patches, and told me, you almost had a heart attack. You're 24 years old. If you don't get help, you're gonna die. At a really young age, I had to decide, was I gonna live or was I gonna die? Was I gonna fight or was I gonna let it beat me? Was I gonna be brave and do this? I'm standing right here. I did it. I finally got the help that I needed. I finally got diagnosed. And I learned about the bulimia. And that voice wasn't me hating myself. See, I always thought I hated myself. I didn't understand that was actually part of my disease. So I was like, wait a second. So you're telling me that all this crap, all this negativity, all this distress is the illness, not me. So there's a space now between that and me, and I can live. I can recover. There's hope in that. I'm not my illness. I'm not the reason I take pills. I am not the things that I've conquered in life. I am me. That was the point that I needed to come to realize that I wasn't my problems. It took a lot of time, hard work, lots of hard work. I had packed packed up all my dance stuff and put it in a box. Leotards, tights, shoes, sewing kit, Band-Aids, ace bandages, everything just stuffed in there, and I sealed it up when I was 17 and I shoved it under my bed, and it had everything in there associated with what happened to me because I couldn't handle what was in that box. Until 2010, and I was very, very depressed again, and I had a really good therapist. You know what she said? You need to open that box. And I'm like, I'm paying you for this? You need to open that box and grieve the loss of dance. You need to go back and grieve what happened to you. You need to go back and feel the things that you never got a chance to feel, and then you'll be free. This is what I figured out, guys. The only way past your pain is through it. Processing through it. If you try to go around, if you try to go this, get distractions after distractions, it's not going to solve the problem. It didn't help me at all. And I remember when I opened that box, it was intense. I remembered all of the joy and the happiness, and I was able to get part of me back. But I had to have the courage to do that. Even when I was afraid, I was literally terrified. But I wanted to be free more than I was afraid of the emotions. Does that make sense? I wanted it more than that. I was willing to do that. So I used my resources. When we connect people to resources, we're connecting them to the things that they need to help them. For example, if your friend goes to the doctor and they do lab work and they show that something's off and they need to take them to an oncologist because they suspect it's cancer. Is there shame in going to an oncologist because you might have cancer? There is no shame in having to go to a psychiatrist to have your brain helped. It's the same thing. That is why we don't use bipolar disorder as slang, right? I hear so many times, oh my gosh, the weather's so bipolar. Did you know that bipolar disorder has that 5.7 million people in America have been diagnosed? 5.7 million people, so I know I'm not alone. And they actually have the highest suicide rate of all psychiatric illnesses. So when you're saying and joking and using bipolar as slang, it's the same thing as saying, oh my gosh, she is being so breast cancer. Think about it. They're both diseases that kill people. Would you ever joke about cancer? Losing someone to cancer tears families apart. But so does suicide. The resources that I used, I called a hotline when I wasn't doing well. I used a therapist, I used my friends, I used my family, because I knew that I deserved to live. I got to the point in my life where I said, I am more than all this. The reason I tell you all of this is because I want you to know that that is true for you. Right now in your own mind, picture a problem you're going through. Doesn't matter what it is, just picture it inside your mind. You have it? Okay. I want you to know right now that you're more than that. You're more than your problem right now. If you've been diagnosed with a mental health condition, or you struggle with depression, or you struggle with anxiety, you're more than your symptoms. That stuff doesn't own you, it's part of you. And when we learn to say that, we're free. Another thing that I had to learn how to say was that I was enough just the way I was. because I was constantly told that I needed to work on this and work on that and be better with this. In school, what is it? Get better grades, work harder, fix this, to improve ourselves. There's nothing wrong with improving our education. What I'm talking about is identity. And that's where we're going to wrap up, is with identity and self-esteem. Because those were the two roots of my problem. So when I lost dance, I perceived that I had nothing else to live for, because dance was my identity. So I tried to become whoever I could to fit in with the people around me. It's so important to know that you are more than your grades. You're more than your goals in life. When I talk at Cal Poly and we go over their stressors, just hearing the fact that what they're going through right now is not going to last forever is so freeing. It's so freeing. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to pass out some note cards. It's time for the note cards. Who needs candy? Okay, so if I hit you in the head, it's not my fault. Thank you for being so enthusiastic for those Smarties. That's exactly why I picked them. He said they make you smart. Okay, what time is it? 10:45. Here we go. If you've heard anything that I've said, anything, This is one thing that I really want you to take with you, okay? I need everyone's eyes on me. Keep your hands to yourself. I want you to know that wherever you're at right now in your life, you are not alone. You might feel very alone. And you're like, no, Amy, I am alone. But you're not alone. And there are people who really want to connect with you. Don't be me at 17. Don't be me at 17, denying it and running and not talking about it. Because I don't want to see that for you. On the back of your ID cards, you have support right here. Shh. Please. Crisis. For drugs, alcohol, child protective services, pregnancy, rise for rape. I'm going to give you a unique resource for teens. It's actually teens answering the phone. So you're actually going to talk to someone your own age. Isn't that pretty cool? Yeah? They'll be like, hey, what's up? And you can just talk to them. You can do it through email. You can email them. It's called Teen Line Online. We're going to get you those cards. You can email someone. Or you can text them. Do you know how easy it is to just send a text than it is picking up the phone and going, this is weird. Right? I remember calling the hotline, but I was such in a dark place that his voice on the other line was like my only connection to the real world at that moment. He somehow talked me out of hurting myself and made me promise to go get help. He was very persuasive. And recently I realized he did what was called QPR on me. Question, persuade, refer. I became a QPR trainer, and I have trained hundreds of teachers and students how to do that technique because it saved my life. The one thing that he did the most for me, I knew I wasn't alone. I want you to write a number 1 on the paper and circle it. I know this is the second week of school. You might not know a lot of teachers on campus yet or the staff. You know how, right when you meet someone, you can kind of just get a feel for them? When you click. Okay. I want you to think for a second. Take it seriously, please. If you were struggling, let's just say you were struggling with all this stuff that I talked about, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe all of it, who would you most likely talk to on this campus? If you have an exact name, you can put it on there. Or if you have a general name, you can put it on there like a counselor or a teacher. But if you have someone specific, seriously, I want you to think about that. If for some reason you were struggling or you know someone who's struggling, how about that too? Who would you go to? Right. Everybody got that person? All right, I want you to write a 2 and circle it.